43% of millennials' wealth has been generated through equity compensation. And this is no surprise, right? We've all been told over and over and over is equity is how you build wealth. So in today's video, I'm going to walk you through the various different types of equity compensation and how each of them work. One thing that I see all the time is that people do not understand how their equity compensation works. When I ask them what type of equity compensation they have, they don't even know. And there's four main types. There's RSUs, which are restricted stock units. There's ISOs, which are incentive stock options. There's NSOs, which are non-qualified stock options. And there's ESPP plans. We're going to walk through all of them today. Let's start with the most simple. The most simple are restricted stock units, otherwise known as RSUs. How RSUs work is you are granted a certain number of shares. So they might say that you're going to get 2,500 shares every year for 4 years. What that really looks like is you're going to have 10,000 shares. Most times at year one, you'll get 2,500, and then every month after that, more will vest. It'll basically be 2,500 divided by 12 is how much that you would then get each month. And then at the end of 4 years, all of those become yours. The big thing to understand is how they are taxed. So at the end of year one, when those 2,500 shares vest, you are taxed that date. So let's say the price per share is $4. That means you got $10,000 worth of shares. You owe income taxes. Keyword income taxes here on the date they vest. So let's just say that you were in the 24% tax bracket. You would owe $2,400 on taxes plus potentially even state taxes if you live in a state that has state taxes. This is really important because you need to plan for this. Oftentimes they will sell shares to cover these taxes. You can choose not to, but most times it does make sense so that way you are prepared and have the tax bill covered. But for high income earners, you do need to understand that most times it's going to under withhold. If you make less than $1 million, it's going to withhold at about a 22% rate, even though you might be in the 32, 35, or 37% bracket. I have some clients that they end up $100,000 to $200,000 under on taxes that they have saved for because it didn't sell enough shares. You want to make sure that you plan for the taxes, you sell enough to cover taxes, and most times that makes sense other than trying to figure out how to scramble and get there through cash flow. A lot of times you'll hear people with RSUs say, oh, I don't really want to sell. I'm going to hold on to these because of taxes. Because what they think is that there isn't taxes on the date they vest, and they have to hold for 1 year after vest to get long-term capital gains rates. What you need to understand is the taxes were due the date they vest. It's the same thing as them giving you a check for those dollars. Taxes are due. Would you want to buy all those shares with those dollars? If the answer is no, you should probably diversify. If the answer is yes, then you should keep the money there. But what you really need to understand is after that, if you hold for 1 month to 11 months, you're going to pay short-term capital gains taxes, which is the same as your income rate. If you hold for greater than a year, you're going to pay long-term capital gains. And again, this is just on the growth. So that's RSUs. So just to recap, you get granted shares, they vest at certain time periods, you have to work there long enough for them to become yours. Taxes are due the day that they vest. Okay, the next one is ISOs, which are incentive stock options. Your employer might give you 10,000 shares that you can buy over 4 years. And so there'll be a vest period. At year one, you might get 2,500 options, same as the last example, and then they might vest monthly after that. And so it'll say, hey, you can buy that many shares at a price of $1. So a year comes around, you get 2,500 shares, it'd be $2,500 to buy all of the shares that you have because that's all they have and it's at $1. But then what you have to understand is what is the market price. So let's say the market price is $5. That means you have this spread or the difference between the two, 5 minus 1 is 4. With ISOs, you don't owe income taxes or any taxes on that spread unless you trigger AMT. AMT is the alternative minimum tax. It's either taxed at 26% or 28%. So if this doesn't trigger AMT, let's say you have 50,000 of room left of AMT, right? $4 spread times by 2,500 is $10,000. You're not going to trigger AMT, so there's no additional tax there. But if let's say it was 5,000 is where you would trigger AMT, then you'd have 5,000 over and then you would owe AMT at either 26 or 28%. But note in the future that a lot of times you get this back via a credit. In today's environment, AMT isn't hit that often, but pre-Trump tax laws, it was hit a ton, and that is set to sunset again in 2026, and AMT might become a bigger problem. So to recap ISOs, you get the right to buy X number of shares at X price. They vest over a certain number of years. If you leave before, then those do not become yours. If you end up leaving and you have an exercise, you typically have 3 months to exercise before they become NSOs. So NSOs are non-qualified stock options. With non-qualified stock options, everything is the same as ISOs except for how they're taxed. With NSOs, that spread is taxed at your income rate. So if we go back to that last example, you had $2,500 at a year, you exercise at $1, current price is $5. Well, you're going to owe income taxes with the $4 times the 2,500 shares. So it'd be $10,000 would flow through and you'd owe income taxes on that amount. That's really the only difference. NSOs are a little bit easier to plan for because oftentimes most people will say, I don't really want to exercise these early because of the risk. The advantage of exercising early is that it hasn't grown a whole lot. So if it's, you could exercise at $1, it's $2 today, you only owe income taxes on that dollar growth. If you wait 10 years down the line, it's worth $50 a share, you're going to owe income taxes on the $49 of growth. So the disadvantage of waiting is that you're going to pay income taxes. The advantage of waiting is surety. You can say, hey, I'm not going to do anything with this until I know these are going to become worthwhile. And when I know there's a liquidity event coming or about to IPO, that's when I can go and exercise these shares. And so a lot of times people do that so they can minimize risk, even though they're going to have to pay more in income taxes. With ISOs, on the other hand, a lot of times people will exercise early because there's no tax. So it's really only the cost of exercising unless you trigger AMT. And so the longer you wait, the bigger the growth, the more you're going to have in AMT. Those are 3 of the most common. The last one is ESPP. So ESPP just stands for Employee Stock Purchase Plans. How employee stock purchase plans work is that you basically get to enroll into this and you can basically buy up to $25,000 of shares per year. So your company might say, hey, you can buy $25,000 per share. The periods are 6 months and we're going to withhold every paycheck. And at the end, we're going to buy. So that's how it is in the most simple form, but there's a couple things that a lot of plans offer. One of them being a look-back provision. A look-back provision says they're either going to buy at the purchase date or the enrollment date. So January comes around, you enroll in, the purchase date becomes July. They'll look at the 2 prices and say whichever's cheaper we'll buy. This is a really great advantage, right? Because if it starts at 20, ends at 25, you get to buy at $20 a share, so you get a good discount. The other one is a lot of them offer a discount. So one that we see really often is a 15% discount. So they'll say, hey, price is $20 a share. You get to actually buy for $17 a share. And if we go back to the previous example, where it started at 20, got to 25, oftentimes you'll have the look back and you'll also have the discount. So you'll actually get it for 17, even though the current price is 25. This is a really great advantage. So oftentimes when you have an ESPP plan, you have a discount, you have a look back provision, it makes sense to use it. Obviously, this isn't advice. You have to look at your situation to see what makes sense. But even if you don't want to hold the shares, right, and you can get a 15% discount, you can take that discount, sell it, net it, and basically go use it in other areas of your life. How the taxes work here basically is that there's qualifying positions and there's disqualifying positions. If you wait till 1 year after the purchase date and 2 years after the offering date, that's how you get a qualifying disposition, which means you pay capital gains taxes. If you don't wait that long, and neither of those provisions are met, then you have a disqualifying position, which means you're going to pay income taxes on that difference. Just make sure on equity compensation decisions, you don't let the tax tail wag the dog. What does that really mean? It means you don't want to just make decisions based on taxes. You want to make the investment decision based on your life, your belief, etc., way before taxes, but you also want to be aware of taxes. You need to understand what you have, how you're going to plan around it. Are you going to exercise? Are you going to sell? What are the taxes? All of this is either on you or you working with a professional to help you navigate it, but don't just wing it. Things can get complex really fast here. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and go subscribe to my channel for more personal finance content. And as always, please leave your thoughts in the comments below and I promise to get back to every single one of them. We'll see you back next week.